Earlier this year, I had the privilege of meeting with Jeanie Marty over Zoom and hearing just a portion of her inspiring story. I hope you're encouraged by it as much as I have been.
My last pregnancy was with Josiah, and I had a very high-risk pregnancy at that time, so developed a lot of complications. I had to be on 24-hour IVs at home for the first 5 months, and then at about 5.5 months I contracted 2 bacteria in my bloodstream. I also had a blood clot that shut off into my lungs, and with that said, I ended up in the ICU for a while. Josiah was almost born at 5.5 months, but I was in the hospital for about 40 days. They kept me there trying to prevent the delivery, and they did until about the 7th month. He was born premature, a little bit over 2 months. Miraculously, he came out screaming and he was well. Nothing that they expected happened. I continued spiraling physically. They didn't know what was wrong. So it took about 2 years of a lot of searching, wrong diagnosis, wrong treatments. And then eventually I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune with connective cancers. So it's rare. And with that, there's a lot of, my immunity's low. So I contract a lot of weird infections and things that most people don't. It also, there's connective cancers. I've had cervical cancer. I had a lump removed from the breast, abnormal lymph nodes. So a lot of surgeries. And the only way to stabilize this, there's no cure, is considered terminal diagnosis, is through chemotherapy and immunotherapy, which I've been on for about 12 years now, consistently. Angel and I had started back in 97, I think it was. We started an outreach ministry where we would go out and bring soup, sandwiches, clothing. Over in the Hunts Point area, we would pretty much go to every area where there were drug addicts, prostitutes, the places that no one wanted to go to, and pray with them, trying to get them to a place of finding Jesus and finding wholeness. It's been a beautiful experience. I think that the more that we gave of ourselves and the more we received from God, and it's a good distraction. You know, as humans, we can be really selfish and self-absorbed, and I think that we need to give in order to overcome ourselves and to really walk like Jesus did. That helps us to do that. So about 2 years ago, I had just had a chemo treatment, and I was in my room resting and overcoming that, and Angel started to feel sick, which was odd. I think I've seen him sick 3 times in the over 30 years we've been together. He took himself to one of those clinics, and they pretty much gave him some Pepsid and told him he had a stomach flu. So 2 days passed, and he's not getting off the sofa. And but after 2 days, my daughter said, "I'm taking you to the ER," and she did. And when she got there, found out that Angel was actually in heart failure. He contracted this virus, and it goes for the heart and just devours it. And so that's what happened. And in 2 days, he was just gone. So to our horror, it was just so shocking, because here I'm the one that's been in palliative care for a couple of years, and I just found this security in that he would be here for the children, and he was the best one for the job. So just to realize that he was gone, and that now I'm the sick one that's left, was just devastating. You know, God is with us even in those dark times, even when we can't see. His eyes are upon us. And there's just no way to explain it. That's just the way it is. We've been part of a support group for grief, and you just see the devastation where the people are so crippled and they just can't come back to function and to living. And so with God, we can come back from tragedy. We can come back from devastation. And so I'm thankful for that.
How has God helped you through this situation, with his passing, but also still being able to could have faith and serve him? Because I think anybody looking in on your situation would say this, if you wanted to have that, just an attitude of like, why serve God, or just be bitter, or considering your situation, I don't think anybody would blame you. So what makes that not your case necessarily?
I know what it's like to have life without God, and I know the darkness, and I know the hopelessness. So for me, what are my options? My options would be to, to just be filled with turmoil and to be crippled by the tragedies that have happened, or to continue to hope in a God that has sustained me for years and has delivered me and has brought me through time and time again, and has allowed me to even defy my prognosis. My prognosis was first a year and a half when I lived in New York City. The first oncologist looked at me. Josiah was an infant, and he says, well, you have about a year and a half. And then I moved here. It was about 2 to 5 years. So for the first 3 years after that, I was pretty much waiting to die. I say that when people get that kind of prognosis, it's like a tick-tock. It's like someone puts a clock over your head and the time is ticking. And there's all this uncertainty that fills your life and those around you. So I was kind of waiting. I wasn't planning for the future. I was kind of staying in the same spot where I could have been living. So 3 years passed and I realized, wait a minute, I'm still here. And there was a lot I could have taken advantage of. So from that point on, it's a decision. I had to make a decision, and I still do every day. It's a decision to say, well, I'm going to live. I'm going to live every day. I'm going to take in every day. And as it comes, and I wake up, I do the same thing. And it's a choice. It's a choice of choosing God, or to just go deeper into whatever emotional and whatever trial is hindering. And, I realized that ministry is not so much us going out and doing things for God, but it's kind of living with him side by side, and then allowing him to kind of flow through us in whatever state we're in. So we have a prayer Bible group for palliative care patients, and we pray together. We share our journeys together. We gain strength from each other. I've actually gotten more invitations to share at churches, whether it's through video, in the last few years than I have in a long time. So it's almost as if God, even when I feel that I'm so limited that I have nothing to bring to the table, he still continues to pull me, lift me up and say, no, there's still more. And for whatever reason, it seems to encourage people when I share my journey, when I'm transparent about my pain, about how difficult it is, my battle between fear and faith, which is daily, and what that looks like. People can draw strength from that. And that's why, as much as I'm not big with being seen on videos, I feel that I look so different. I enjoy doing this because I know that God's going to be exalted, because he is the one that's giving me the grace. It's completely supernatural. Nothing I can do or say makes this happen.
Your story, and I tell you, encourages me, because I'm able to go out and be around people. I'm able to go to work, and sometimes can still feel like, especially like after a year of 2020, life sucks,
Right.
or even in my walk and in my ministry, I'm like, God, what are you doing? What do you have for me? And I think a lot of times we can get mixed up and think, ministry is going out there and doing.
And sometimes it's just taking someone's phone call. It's praying for someone, So, you encourage me a lot with your story, with just that how God can still use you or use anyone with whatever they have, whatever they give, as long as it's a life that's yielded over to Him.
For the first time in a long time, I'm thinking about the future. I'm almost forced to. I'm here and I have to start planning for the future and for my children. So I have received this letter and it wasn't good news. And I just went into complete panic mode. And immediately the story of Jesus with the disciples on the boat, with the storm raging, came to mind. And all I remember was the part of the story that came forth was when Jesus said, "You of little faith," to the disciples, "what are you afraid of?" And I felt like Jesus was saying to me, "What are you afraid of?" And it was like this whole playback of the last 2 years and how he got me through probate without a lawyer, with chemo brain, and all the different things that I had to walk through physically, emotionally, spiritually. And it was this play-by-play of each time that he pretty much guided me out of that. And I just kept hearing, "What are you afraid of?" And the disciples at that time had already experienced many miracles with Jesus up to that point. But like with all of us, when there's a storm, we do tend to panic. And I think that Jesus sleeping through that is so telling, in that we too can have that peace through a storm. We could sleep through a storm. It's really tapping into our faith and trusting that He's in control in the midst of it. Faith, a relationship with God, that's all a choice. And so whenever in a situation, it's a choice of bitterness, sorrow, right, and despair, or hoping that God is who He says He is, and that we are who He says we are in Him. His faithfulness goes beyond people. It goes beyond anything we would ever experience. It goes beyond our own faithfulness to Him. And we can trust in that. That's the one thing that you can put your all into, and it's going to come through for you no matter what.